Hey, it's Shawn Casemore here, and I want to thank you for joining me on another one of my video series, Sell More with Casemore. You know, I work with a lot of sales leaders, sales managers, sales executives, and they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders. Not only are they sales professionals themselves, oftentimes having their own prospects, their own accounts to try and work on their own responsibilities, but they have the added responsibility of trying to lead and motivate their team to get out there and sell more. You know, I've found that throughout my work across North America with sales leaders that in fact there are a few key things that if done repeatedly and correctly, they can provide tremendous results for a sales team and ultimately make the sales leader's job a heck of a lot easier. This comes from a lot of the work I've done with teams in the past. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can check out my book, The Unstoppable Organization. But that said, let's get back to talking about sales leaders' responsibilities. So ultimately, there's a few key things here, and these are going to seem overly simplified. And in fact, they are pretty simple to do. Problem is they don't happen quite often because of everything that's going on in the world of a sales leader. You know, the days of being a leader that sits back, puts your feet up on the desk and relaxes, those days are gone. I never personally got to experience them in my corporate life, although I know there was some folks that came ahead of me that apparently that's what they had done. But I'm dating myself now. Ultimately though, here are those tips. Number one, make sure when you set goals, targets, anything that you set with your team, make sure you do it together. Don't give them targets, set them together. Doesn't mean you can't drive the conversation, doesn't mean you can't bring forward what you'd like them to achieve, but it's got to be a dialogue. Goals that are set together are not the leader's goals, they become the employee's goals, right? Because there's something you've developed together. So you want to make sure that any goals or targets that are set are done in a mutual, collaborative type fashion. What does that mean? Well, I'm sharing my ideas, you're sharing your ideas, and we're coming to an agreement on what's realistic that you can achieve here. Still want to challenge you a bit, but ultimately we're coming to that agreement together. Second thing is you've got to check in with your people on a regular basis. By regular, I prefer daily. Sometimes that's not realistic, at least weekly. Now, I don't mean doing this in a group meeting, I mean one-to-one. So if you've got 50 employees, you need to schedule time in your calendar to do this. But you should be checking in with all of your direct reports at least once a week. Now, what are you checking in on? Hey, how's your week gone? How are you coming against your targets? Is there any help you need from me or anything you need from me? Any challenges you're facing I might be able to help you with? Right? Can I connect you with somebody else that might be able to help you? You are there as a support mechanism to make sure they're successful. So this is the kind of conversation you need to have. Doesn't have to be overly formal, doesn't have to take a long time. This can be a 10-minute conversation, right? But ultimately, this is these weekly check-ins that will make sure your people stay on track. Make sure there's no surprises that come to you as a sales leader because it's been a month since you last chatted. You hadn't heard anything, so you assume they're on track. They're not, and now you're upset, right? Check in weekly, you tend to avoid those kind of problems. The last thing I want to suggest is that you need to be motivating. As a sales leader, you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. As I said before, you've got a lot going on, but you don't want to carry that with you. Your role indirectly is to keep your people, your team inspired and motivated. How do you do that? Well, number one, right? Should always be wearing one of these. Two, be upbeat with your volume, your tone, your inflection, everything. If you're coming out going, gee, that sale didn't go so well, we're going to have to debrief on that. How motivating is that? Who wants to work for that guy, right? I'll still remember a sales manager I worked with back in my early 20s. He was somebody, I mean, he was emotional sometimes. He'd get upset, he'd get angry, but man, we had a lot of fun. And when you sold something, he'd high five you. He was so excited. And that motivated the people that worked for him, right? Because they looked forward to working with him. And he kept them inspired. Even on down days, he'd pull you in and say, look, everybody has a slow day. Don't worry about it, right? Let's focus on what you can be doing right now. Very helpful. So you need to take that approach. You need to continue to motivate your people, even when you yourself might be having a bad day, a bad week, or a bad month. That is your role as a leader. So I hope you take these tips and apply them. Again, none of them are overly difficult. They don't take a lot of time, but you will need to schedule time to make sure they happen. So put them in their calendar. And as always, if you have questions on how to apply these in your own situation, you can reach out directly. Just connect with me on my website, www.ShawnCasemore.com. You can reach me there. Happy to have a conversation, see if I can help you apply these to your own working environment to get more out of your team. As always, appreciate you joining me. Hope you've enjoyed this video, Sell More with Casemore, these video series. I create these each and every week, release at least a couple a week, and I'm looking forward to hearing your comments down below if there's any topic you'd like me to speak about. Thanks again, and hey, as I always say, get out there today and sell something. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.